I'm Sam Worcester and I'm a project officer at the Inner Northern Local Learning and Employment Network. Today I'm sitting with Dylan Norris. How's it going?
Thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Thanks for speaking with us today. It'd be great to talk to you about some of the experiences you had and your current position.
No problem.
Just want to tell us about your most recent work and what your current position is.
Yeah, no worries. So I'm 32 and I'm a carpenter, and I've been a carpenter for just over 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I started my apprenticeship when I was 20 or 21, so I've been doing it for a little while now. And so I've worked for a number of different companies and run my own small business as well.
Mm-hmm. So you've been in the game for a while, in the building game.
Yep.
At the beginning, when you're in high school, did you always know what you wanted to do? Did you always know you wanted to be a builder? And what did that look like in high school?
Not at all. I had absolutely no idea. I gave up on the dream of being a footy player pretty early on when I realised I wasn't very good at it.
Mm-hmm.
But I had absolutely no idea. I left school and I got a job with a landscape gardener who was a family friend, and I worked with him for a few years, and then another person who was a friend of my mate's dad, so a couple of steps away.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, we're looking for apprentices. Do you want a carpentry apprenticeship? And a few of my friends had already started apprenticeships with plumbing and electrical and a couple of other things, and I was like, all right, that sounds good. Like, I'd hit that point. I was like early 20s and had to start thinking about something a bit more long term. And so it seemed like a good option. And but it never had, before that, it was never really something that I had strongly considered, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And what age or what year level did you go and pursue that? Did you finish school?
Yeah, I finished year 12. And then, I sort of, mostly landscaping, but I did a couple of other small jobs, like laboured on a few building sites and worked for an arborist for a little bit of time, and mostly in that kind of the trade industry.
Yeah.
As a whole. Yeah.
That's good. What were your interests in school, and I guess what shaped your decision to pursue the building apprenticeship? What was it about it that made you go for it in the end?
Well, I always enjoyed art within school. I loved that creative side of things. And I always enjoyed woodwork. We had a really lovely woodworking teacher, and that was really fun. And I think when the option came about, the idea of carpentry, like the area that the building company that I was going to work for was a really cool one. Like, they were doing lots of architectural builds, and they showed me some of the stuff that they were doing, and it kind of, you get that sort of creative aspect of it, and that's pretty exciting. So that definitely appealed to me at the beginning, and I think that the idea of something sustainable and solid within my working life also was a big part of the reason I moved into and took it on the apprenticeship.
Yeah. So I guess that ability to, create and, be very practical at the same time would have been, part of that. But I guess you've left school, you've pursued the apprenticeship. over the years, you know, in building construction, what were some of the challenges that you faced, and you know, how did you overcome them?
Um, well, I dealt with some not so friendly, uh, you know, fellow workers who weren't the nicest people to be working with, or just be around in general. So that was a very, very challenging time. That was during my apprenticeship, and uh, I ended up leaving the company I was at and and finishing my apprenticeship with a close friend of mine who's a builder. And
Right.
yeah, so I ended up moving companies to yeah. So that was a challenging time, and I guess yeah, like a few other sort of running your own jobs as well is can be quite stressful, and trying to calm your brain down, because your heads just can be whizzing. You know, even when you've finished work for the day and you're still overthinking everything. So, but you know, you just have you work on your process and how to structure your day and all those, and plan well, and that always helps.
Yeah, I guess dealing with those different stakeholders, whether it's your boss or the owner of the property, or yeah, there's a few people that you've got to make sure that you're doing the right thing for, I can imagine.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of juggling that the expectation versus cost aspect is always a big one. And there's also like interacting with the client is in a completely different way, because they don't necessarily understand the process. So you have to explain it to them, and then, dealing with all different trades and getting the timing right as well. Like there's no point, getting trades in 2 weeks early, because there's nothing for them to do. So that's always a balancing, juggling, and trying to, and then they've also got other jobs on as well. So, it's trying to manage all of that, which can be stressful.
Do you think that's a bit, that's more representative of the experience of, say, a builder to other trades, having to manage those different workflows between, doing a certain amount of work and then getting another trade in to come and do their part, and then you continue, and then having another trade come in? Do you think that's one of the unique challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's, 90% of builders are carpenters or carpentry background. There's a few plumbers and people like that, but there's mostly carpenters who go on to be builders, because carpenters are the ones their first day on site, and they'll be the last ones to leave. So, and they're covering everything in between. So yeah, it's a good, there's some roles where, you have, on like the estates and stuff like that, you might have guys who just do framing, and that's all they do. They come in, they frame the house, they leave, and then they'll frame the next house, and there'll be another crew that does the next stage. Whereas, so that's also a possibility. But if you're, all the stuff that I've done is from start to finish. So it's about having, well planned. Yeah.
Do you feel that your trade, despite the challenges, prepared you well for when you finished your apprenticeship?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that a big part of it, the most learning you do, in my opinion, is the first year out of your apprenticeship, because suddenly you're asking for X amount of dollars as a qualified carpenter. You're expected to know the answers, even though you've got a very small amount of experience. So there's a lot of pressure on you to, in terms of pace and quality, all these kinds of things. And I think, there's, in hindsight, I probably could have done more and pursued other roles during my apprenticeship to get more out of it. And that's always something that I highly recommend to young budding tradesmen, is that if you're not getting what you need out of your apprenticeship, then there's other options. I think that's really important.
And on that, I guess there's a big difference between a good apprenticeship and a bad apprenticeship. What advice could you give somebody seeking an apprenticeship in terms of finding an employer that will prepare them well, into their working life in each respective trade?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I don't think this is the be-all and end-all, but I think it's important to get a boss you're working with, because it's in their best interests to, if you've got a builder off-site, then the guys you're working with, it's not within their role to teach you. Whereas if you're working with your boss, it's in his best interest to make you as good as possible, as quickly as possible, because then he's making money off you. It's as simple as that. But I think, I think it's important to sort of take your time and and maybe do a bit of labouring for them at first and see if you get along well, seeing what kind of character they are on site, because people can be very different. Meeting them, coming around to your house or whatever, and compared to being on a job site. So I think that's important to find, but also, look into the different areas like that you want to work in as well. What do you want out of your apprenticeship? What do you, do you want to work on architectural builds? Do you want to work in commercial? And sort of seek out those people. And I think give it a little bit of time to see if there is a bit of a relationship before signing on.
Yeah. Do you think it takes more qualifications or more experience to, say, work with an architectural build focused builder, or?
Well, I guess it just depends on what you're used to. If you're, if you've just done framing, then, that change might be a bit challenging, but it's also probably challenging the other way, going from, an architectural build to have that pace, because, with the lot of building that I've done is there's a lot of nutting things out because it's not simple. So I think it just can depend. But, I think it's important to try and get as much experience as many areas, because everything always relates to each other. So,
of course.
the longer you're in the industry, the better you're going to be, no matter what you're doing. So,
and I guess going back to, know you've had extensive time in the industry, knowing what you know now, if you were to start again and start over, what would you do differently?
I'd take the learning into my own hands a bit more. I wouldn't. I had an expectation that I was going to be taught, whereas I would, in hindsight now, sort of say, no, you have to be the one, annoying them, basically asking questions and saying, if they're saying, hey, go clean this up, go clean it up, then come back and say, hey, what are you doing here? Oh, how do you do that? Like, be that guy. Absolutely. Because I kind of thought, oh no, when the time's right, they'll teach me. And I think I missed out a bit by not going down that road. Yeah.
I think that's probably reminiscent of a lot of industries, but that's good advice. And I guess what information or advice could you give a young person who's thinking about, a career as a builder, and what would you say to them if to
Well,
us?
yeah, well, I guess like when you're seeking out an apprenticeship and trying to find one, because like I was saying before, I kind of fell into mine, but I've got a number of friends who, you know, seeked them out, and there's nothing more. Bosses love nothing more than showing how keen you are, and so you know if you rock up on a job site at 7 o'clock, like and say, "Hey, have you got any work going on? Do you want an apprentice?" They they love it. Like it's they might not say, "Oh no, we've got nothing." You rock up a couple of weeks later, do it again. And this happened to a friend of mine. He did that, and then they're like, "Oh, this guy's really keen. I can't." But a friend of mine who's a builder needs someone, and he got an apprenticeship out of that. So I think showing how keen you are can really help getting an apprenticeship. But also like allowing, like I was saying before, like allowing time to get to know the boss and the environment that you're going to work in by labouring and, doing those kinds of things to get that kind of experience to see if that's where you want to work. Because it's a big, it's a big deal. You're sort of taking on 4 years, 3 to 4 years of your working life. You want to make sure it's a good fit.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work out, like I said, there are other options. Don't feel like you're trapped, basically.
Yeah, no, that's good. And what are you doing right now, and sort of how did you get there after having a big career, as a builder?
Well, I'm currently studying. I'm doing studying youth work at RMIT, so doing that from home at the moment, which has been interesting. Bit of a change up for me. But I've been doing some small carpentry jobs on the side, which is really handy. Just hanging a few doors and a few gazebos and things like that. Stuff that's pretty sort of simple and good to make a little bit of extra cash on the side when you're a student. So, and they're great skills to have. Like I, still have a lot of carpentry stuff I do as hobbies as well, like woodworking sort of things. And
I guess wherever you end up and whatever you end up doing, you've always got those skills there to either fall back on or to supplement whatever you're doing, and also for your enjoyment. It's quite
absolutely.
Good.
Because I when I'm doing my own carpentry jobs, I love it. Like I still get a real kick out of, you look back and you've done something, you're like, yeah, that's really cool. I've done a really wicked job. And there's a lot of pride that comes into those kinds of things as well.
What's your most memorable job, and why, in thinking about that sense of gratification and with your work?
Probably the most memorable was a pub that we did we refurbed a few years ago. I was working for a builder, and it's in Richmond, and it was kind of a derelict pokies pub, and we kind of ripped it all apart, and it ended up becoming a very cool venue, and did a lot of really cool things, and been back there a few times and looked around and going, wow, this is sick.
Knowing that you were the one who built that and sitting in there enjoying a drink.
Yeah, absolutely. Like knowing that I helped contribute to this pretty cool place. So, No,
that's great. Thank you for your time today, Dylan. It was good to sit down and chat about everything.
No worries.
Insights in there.